COP as well. We'll also be looking forward to how we can continue the work we did and use COP not as an isolated past event, but as a springboard for future action. So first, I'd just like to introduce Community Energy England. I'm sure a lot of you will be very familiar with our work, but some of you less so. So Community Energy England was founded in 2014 by practitioners within the community energy sector to act as the voice for the sector and to put people at the heart of the energy system. So since then, our membership's grown to over 280 community energy organisations and a range of other stakeholder organisations as well. So we have a vision and we have a mission. So our vision is a thriving community energy sector integrated into and truly powering a fair zero carbon energy system. And our mission is to help active community energy organisations implement new projects, innovate, improve and grow. So there are a couple of ways that we do this, the main sort of two strands of our work. The first of these is to make politicians, national and local government officials, network operators and regulators aware of community energy benefits, needs, opportunities and policy obstacles, and lobby for supportive policy and regulations. The second is to provide opportunities and mechanisms for active community energy practitioners in all parts of England to connect, learn, share business models and help each other overcome obstacles. So this session is primarily focused on the former of these. It's intended to share learnings from the sector regarding advocacy and input into how we can move forwards as a sector and as an organisation. So there's lots more info about this on our website. So following the session, we'll send around information about membership and how you can find out a bit more about what we do and a bit more about the sector as well for those who aren't necessarily so ingrained within the sector. So yeah, first things first and thank yous. So thanks to all our speakers for joining us today. We know that they're really busy people with focus on making their projects work, so we're really grateful for them for taking the time to come and share their experience and their expertise with us. I also really want to thank all the people that have contributed to our campaigning around COP26 and to the people that have worked so hard to raise the profile of community energy around that event. Community energy really relies on people and communities working hard to see change. Without them, it wouldn't exist. Thank also to our partner organisations, particularly to Friends of Provident Foundation and to Power to Change, who provided really generous support to allow us to increase our working capacity to organise around COP26. And finally, thanks to everyone for coming. Really hope you enjoy what we've got in store and come away feeling hopeful about the future of community energy. So I'm going to run through the agenda quickly. It has been updated and it's been, I think Flora's just posted it on the chat. Thank you, Flora. So to start with, we've got 3 talks that are going to be reflecting, looking back on COP26. So we have Prina Sumaria from Regen, who will be talking about Regen's work, including their work in the regional Roadshows. Dave Tudgey from Bristol Energy Network will be talking about activism in the COP26 Blue Zone in Glasgow. And Jemma Knowles and Uden will be talking about their Moths to a Flame project. So following that, we're going to split into breakout rooms. And this is really an opportunity for people to feedback about their experiences of COP, to share some of the learnings that they've had from COP, but also to look at sort of what a COP legacy means to them and what they want to see going forwards. This will then be fed back into the sort of main group. We'll have each group feeding back into that. Then we're going to have a bit of a break because breakout rooms can be a little bit exhausting sometimes. And then when we come back, we'll have some more forward-looking talks. So Hannah, who I think hasn't joined us yet, but will be joining us later from the Climate Coalition, will be talking about their ongoing Show the Love campaign and Great Big Green Week 2022. And then Duncan from CEE will be talking about our campaigning and advocacy priorities for the sector and the sort of opportunities that we see looking forward. And then we'll wrap up and close. So I'm going to start shortly. So after each speaker, there will be time for questions, but there won't be that much time. So it'll probably be only 1 or 2 per speaker. So as questions come up, if you could please post them in the chat, and then I'm going to ask Flora to select as many as we have time for at the end. And then Yeah, the only other thing is, for those who sort of missed it earlier, this session is being recorded, and you'll be able to access the recording on YouTube following the session. Great, so I think now we're going to go to our first speaker. So our first speaker is Prina from Regen, who's the local energy coordinator at Regen. So Regen were really involved in COP26 activism, and Regen's director was seconded into the COP26 unit. And she'll be talking about a lot of stuff, but I think primarily their engagement in the Southwest Regional Roadshow with the Southwest Energy Hub. Great.
Thanks, Henry. You've stolen a little bit of my intro paragraph, but that's okay. So hi, everyone. It's lovely to see you all on the call today. So for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Prina. And like Henry said, I'm a local energy coordinator at Regen. And if you don't know who Regen are, we're a not-for-profit organisation of energy expertise. And our mission is to decarbonise, decentralise and democratise our energy system. So we've worked with a wide range of organisations and with community energy groups for over 10 years now. So yeah, talking about the regional roadshows, so Regen was involved both behind the scenes with one of my colleagues who was seconded into the government to work on COP, and on the front end as well, I did a talk and Q&A about energy in general at the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Council event. So yeah, the regional roadshows were supported through BEIS, through the energy hub. So this one was through the Southwest Energy Hub, and it was to showcase local activities and projects to the public, investors and other interested parties. So it was all very local people who attended, and so the aim was to motivate and inspire people to join the Race to Zero primarily, but also climate action in general. And the Race to Zero was a separate campaign to rally non-state actors such as companies, cities, regions to take action to cut carbon emissions. And kind of the idea behind this was that a lot of people wanted to get involved in COP, especially because obviously we were hosting it, but not everyone was able to go up to Glasgow, and so this gave an opportunity for people to get involved locally. So at the event itself, I don't actually know the exact number, but there was quite a lot of, at least a couple of hundred people who attended the sessions throughout the day. And from what I could tell, there was a really, really big range of people. So I got asked some really technical questions about energy, so you could clearly see that they knew what they were talking about. But I also got asked questions from primary school kids, which turns out actually their questions were pretty technical as well. And so what I kind of learned from this was that there is people interested in this. There are lots of people interested in climate action, but they don't really know what to do, and that's why they come to events like this one, and where I could direct them to Community Energy England's webpage, is what I did, but also to kind of other places as well. And community energy organisations are in the perfect place to engage these people, and it's quite important for local groups to be quite visible and searchable online, is what I kind of gained from that little tidbit in the Q&A. The other thing that I wanted to flag from the event itself was how well the case studies did. There was a little video before my talk with case studies. So there was Chase Water Community Energy was included, and Stydian's Energy Project were a couple from that, and it did a really great job of showcasing the really good work that those groups are doing. And along the same lines, my colleagues were involved in producing the Faces of the Energy Transition series, so which is a digital campaign run by all the UK energy trade associations, supported by COP and Race to Zero digital channels to celebrate the inspiring individuals and projects working to achieve a clean energy transition. And so one of those was also Kayla from Besco, who I'm sure many of us know. And so my takeaway from this is, which I'm sure we already know, but I think it's always good to reiterate, is the necessity for kind of well-produced content and stories about what the community energy sector is doing, because it just showed it was super impactful. It really inspired people, and it's a really good way of showcasing viable community energy models, and not just inspiring people, but also maybe potentially policymakers and people in power and MPs. And that's a really good way to kind of grab their attention. So obviously this was done through a local authority. So my main contacts here were with Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly councils. So I think, and during the event itself, there were local MPs and elected representatives present. So I think it's always good to kind of understand the way in which these work and try and get an in with these local councils. So that was one thing that was really good for us, and also to showcase community energy and the good work that it's been doing. So just moving on from the roadshows a little bit, whilst I did have the opportunity to go to Glasgow, they're not in the blue zone, as we'll talk about, I think Dave's going to talk about later. What personally stood out to me, and was by keeping up to date with the process and the outcomes, was that ultimately government and the people in power alone are not going to solve this crisis. And so to me, that was really showing the importance of the grassroots community action, showing the need for this, but also how much ambition we're going to need as grassroots organisations as well. And I'm just going to plug our podcast here, because Jodie, Kai and I talked about in quite a lot of detail the scaling up in our podcast, which you can find on the Regen Transforming Energy podcast. I do recommend having a listen of that. I think I still have a little bit of time, so I'm just going to talk about a couple of from our position within the COP team. So like we said, one of my colleagues was seconded into the COP team. We actually had the opportunity to facilitate some roundtables with community energy groups and ensure they were involved in the workshops and to shape some of the outcomes, which was a really cool opportunity to have. And another thing that we learned from this was also the importance of having consistent messaging. So often NGOs would come in to policymakers with slightly different messaging, but ultimately wanting the same thing. And I think it's quite a good opportunity for us to learn and make sure that we are talking to each other, that we're talking with CEE to make sure that we're all having consistent messaging and we know what we're asking for and our demands, just to make it as clear and easy as possible for policymakers and investors and anyone who's interested in supporting us, and they know what we're about. And yeah, so I think that was obviously quite a quick overview of everything, and it ranged quite a lot, but I hope that's kind of giving you an insight into what we learned as Regen, but also a little bit personal as well, what I learned as well. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions now if anyone has any. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Oops, sorry, Henry.
Sorry, that's all right. I was just going to say one thing just before we hop on to questions. Yeah, thank you very much, first of all. And yeah, I just wanted to add on about the case studies. So we're working a lot over the course, particularly in the run-up to COP, but moving on now with an organisation called Carbon Copy, which hosts case studies on their website. So it's a really amazing resource that's it's highly searchable. So there are lots and lots of different case studies on there, and you can find a case study for basically anything on there, but particularly focused on community projects. They're all environmental projects, but there is a particular focus on community projects. I think there are about sort of 50 community energy case studies on there at the moment, and that number keeps on growing, which is great. So yeah, I would highly recommend that anybody who is interested in learning more about the sector or interested in sharing their experience do look at Carbon Copy as a platform. Yeah, sorry for cutting you off there, Flora. Yeah.
That's okay. We'll just move into some questions. So if you have questions, please pop them into the chat just now, but we'll start with a question from me, if that's all right. So just wondering how you would encourage other groups moving forward to get involved with their local energy hubs.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's often the people at the energy hubs are very, very friendly people, so it's just sending them a message, and it's yeah, I highly recommend it because they are so knowledgeable. They've done a lot of the RCEF funding. They've seen groups come in and out. They know what works and what doesn't quite often. So they are definitely good people to have contacts with, and as well as local authorities as well. So a lot of the, if you can find the right people who are interested, or you can gain their interest through, like we were just talking about, case studies or other showcasing what you've already done. And try to get your local authorities and energy hubs interested. I think that is quite an important yeah, thing that we're going to have to do in the future.
Great, thank you so much, Prina. That was really, really interesting. Thank you. I think, do we have Dave?
You do. You do.
Oh, fantastic news.
Sorry, I was just I'm juggling a lot of balls at the moment today. I'm sort of
That's right.
the wind turbine and politicians yesterday, and today the conference. So apologies for not showing my face sooner.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. So yeah, Dave Tudgey is the project development manager at Bristol Energy Network. He's really active in campaigning for broader community energy support. And he joined CE in the Blue Zone in Glasgow. So I've asked him to share a little bit about that experience. And again, if you've got any questions for Dave, please put them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them at the end.
I was going to. Great,
Dave.
Thank you. I was going to convert my blog into slides, but I might just share my screen of my blog that I did for COP earlier in the year. But yeah, firstly, thank you to Community Energy England for really promoting the community energy sector so effectively at COP26 and inviting us to represent and present at COP26. I was actually fortunate to be invited by the ICLE World Secretariat and ICEI European Secretariat to discuss how community energy can contribute to the Paris Agreement and help us on a pathway to net zero. So I'll just share my screen a second just to give you a flavour of what we did, because it was a very, very busy time for us all when we were at COP26. So apologies, this isn't in a slide format, but this will give you a flavour of what we were there doing. So really, what we were there. We arrived. It's quite a tempestuous journey. We had railway lines being flooded. We had all sorts of other railways being cancelled, and on my train I ended up sitting opposite Jonathan Bamber, who's actually got a glacier named after him, and he was there to be wheeled out to talk to politicians about the real climate emergency and how much we really need to do. So that really sharpened my focus in going into that, having spent 6 hours talking to him about the challenges we face and what we needed to do. So this meant that when I got off the train, I was fully energized to go into COP26 with all the up-to-date climate science and to really go into this and talk to everybody really about the message of what community energy can deliver, and hope lies outside of politics, where politicians are failing us to deliver policies that will lead to net zero. We can take action and actually demonstrate ways in which to progress. So that's what I started doing. I went out. First day there were long queues to get in, and one of the things I had underneath my arm was the community energy strategy, which is basically this slide here, which, well, you've probably seen our community energy strategy before now, so I won't share it again now, because I'd have to look through to find it on my screen, sharing screen, so I won't go back through that. But yeah, so by communicating, oh, there it is, actually, I'll just quickly share it. So by talking to people as I went in, I recognized that everyone in the queue was there as someone from different countries from around the world, who I could communicate what community energy can really do for their communities. So by talking to important influential people in the queue, I was able to get quite a lot of that message across, and I really carried on that throughout the whole of my time at COP26. So I was really pleased to have met people from the African Energy Hub. It's a new program being launched by WWF, and sort of really performing that enabling role that Bristol Energy Network performs in Bristol, but also the energy hubs and Community Energy England and many of the Community Energy England members are doing advocacy for community energy. And it really goes to show, if you have just that one champion to help that enabling process, amazing things can happen. So really just looking for people who can engage with your message around community energy is so powerful, and it can inspire so many other people. So there's lots of conversations that I had. One of those conversations I had was with Chris Stark from the Climate Change Committee, and I did actually complain that the Climate Change Committee hadn't commented on the pathway to net zero, including community energy in that pathway. And this is crucial, really, that wherever people are talking about SDGs or sustainable development goals, that they actually recognise community energy in that pathway. And so that was part of my mission, was to go really evangelising on community energy about why it's so important that they recognise this pathway. And on our journey, Duncan arranged with Community Energy in Scotland to meet the Glasgow Community Energy Group, and we actually met the Lord Provost there. And it was interesting, the discussion we had with him and his colleagues about the struggles that the community group had faced. There were similar to the ones in Bristol, certain officers not understanding the message, and how COP26 allowed some of that to be unblocked, and actually then to actually achieve this solar installation on top of the school there. So it just really goes to show that enablers are really important, making sure that you engage with just finding one person in the local authority who can actually listen and then actually go out and take that message out to the other officers. And cross-party support is so important. We met with Carla Denyer. She's now the deputy, sorry, I need to be clear, yes. So Carla, I think, is now the deputy, so it's either the leader, I'm tripping over myself now. Carla is leader of the Green Party in Bristol and nationally now. Can someone inform me what Carla's role is? Does someone have that? No. Okay, so I think, well, I'm tripping over myself there, so apologies. But yeah, so Carla's significant, being a Green Party leader, and so she was there to support the message of community energy and listen to our things that we're looking for nationally, so that community energy is supported nationally, and naturally the Green Party are allies of our message. So we've finished up taking to the streets to promote our message of hope, of community energy, and we were rewarded with a rainbow, as you can see there, at the end of all of that. So we kept the momentum going, and as such, our message has been transmitted globally, because this was about cities around the world, this presentation I gave here, and I'll put this blog in the chat so you can review any of the messages or any of the videos that are there yourselves to see what was discussed. But really what I'm encouraging you all to do is use your politicians, use your councillors, engage with them, write to them, get their responses in writing, and things can happen. And one of the things that did happen whilst I was there was I bumped into Kwasi Kwarteng, and he was on his way to somewhere else, and I pointed out that there was a need, for funding for alongside the words that are written in the net zero plans that the government has, and it was a very brief interaction, but it was we need to talk is basically what he said, and so I wrote to him requesting a meeting, and he replied with a 2-page letter with an invitation for a meeting with Greg Hans, and I'm pleased to say that meeting took place yesterday, where we're calling on Greg Hans for a community energy fund to extend RCEF beyond what we have at the moment, and to include all communities. And we were going to follow that up with a letter and to copy Kwasi in to that that message, and really invite Greg Hans really come back to us in June at the next community energy fortnight conference with Community Energy England in Bristol, so that we can see if we've been heard. And basically this is why what you do is so important. Keep going, everyone, with what you are doing, because we can't wait for the politicians to make decisions that favour us. We have to keep pushing and keep demanding from our elected leaders the things that we need to be able to enable us to succeed. But our true potential hasn't yet been realised. We pushed that message clearly across the minister yesterday. So hopefully we shall see that recognised in funding to support your projects going forwards. But thank you again, Community Energy England, for all the support you've given the sector and promoting us all to politicians. Oh, sorry, any questions if you want, yeah.
Yep, we've got a few questions here. The first one's, what is your view, Dave, on why it's often so difficult to get large organisations like the government and the CCC to have community energy as part of their net zero plans?
I think it's about awareness as much as anything. I mean, or maybe it's just making. I can't really answer why they didn't make more of it in the climate change committee. I think it was an admission that they made a mistake in not recognising that, and so I can't speak for them. All I can say is that if it's not there, then we need to make sure it's there. So whenever you spot a document or whenever you come across a sustainability manager or advisor, just ask them, are they aware of community energy? And if they're not, start informing and describing to them what's going on, and copy Community Energy England in, because I think unless we educate people and make sure that they're aware of this amazing tool that is community energy, then it won't be in their plans and strategy. So we have to make sure that community energy is recognised there, and we need to be vigilant to make sure it remains on those plans.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The second question is, what about COP26 left you feeling hopeful moving forward?
I feel hopeful in the sense that I met lots of other people like myself who are passionate about making the changes needed, and I feel hopeful in the sense that corporate actors that perhaps have been asleep at the wheel for a long time are now aware of the challenge. There's no hiding from climate change. This is all of our agenda now, and the fact that we've got a head start in the fact that we're already engaged in community energy is a good way forward, so that we can actually promote our message. And I guess there's a global message, there's a global opportunity here that, you know, not everyone's got a democracy, but you know, where we can promote community energy solutions, that, you know, where people can do stuff for themselves, we can give agency to people globally. There's that recognition that we can promote community level solutions.
Do we have time for one more question, Henry, or are we?
I think we do have time for one more question. Yeah.
So I'll just ask finally, what do you think, Dave, is the most important thing you can do with advocacy to benefit your project and also the sector as a whole?
Well, I think advocacy starts is one person at a time. So start with the people around you, and look for the people that are listening, really, because obviously if someone's not listening, they might then move on to the person that is prepared to hear you, because we haven't got time to you know, for people that aren't listening. We want people that are listening. So look for the people that are engaging back with you, and just keep going with those people, because they will that would generate the momentum to keep moving forward. So just keep moving forwards with people that want to move forwards, and that will amplify your voice further. But yeah, just leave those people behind that aren't interested in what you have to say. Just keep moving forwards. Yeah, and also find someone who actually has has a role in government or a role in local parish so that you can't do it. And in some cases, people, apply to be the local parish councillor. If things aren't changing, then change it, like Froome did. so yeah, don't wait for someone else. It's a climate emergency, so we all need to take that on board, really, and and do what we can. One last thing about the previous question, my most inspiring thing was just meeting the WWF Energy Hub. The people there are brilliant, and also the other inspiring people I met were Orlando, the officer, the sort of equivalent council officer. He's much more important than that, but with the innovations that they were coming up with, I was very impressed with that global sense that other people were taking that action to heart. And also civil servants do really care about this, so I do think we need to appreciate what a difficult job people have in roles where they're doing the best they can. So I think the more what community energy does is really gives them agency to do the things that they really want to be able to do in their jobs.
Great. Thank you so much, Dave. I do have one quick, just a clarification on Carla Denio from Pamela. Thank you, Pamela. So she is now the co-leader of the Green Party with Adrian Ramsey.
That's great. I wanted to say that, but my brain was just blocking me from fully saying that.
It's all right.
I knew she was. I wanted to say leader, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So yeah, thank you.
Cheers. Great. Thank you so much. So now if we have Jemma and Chloe here, I think I've seen both of them. So we're now going to hear from Jemma Knowles and Chloe Uden. And so Jemma's here to represent Plymouth Energy Community, and Chloe to represent the Arts and Energy Collective. So they worked together during COP26 on the Moths to a Flame project, which they brought to Glasgow. So yeah, now we're going to hear from them. And again, just keep putting questions in the chat, and we'll try and get to as many of them as possible.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to see you. I'm Chloe, and Gemma's also here. Jemma, can you say hi?
Hi everybody.
So I do know some of you because I spent 13 years working at Regen and connected with community energy back along then when I was there, and that's where I first started developing art and energy practice. And back in 2018 we set up the Art and Energy Collective because we knew that people, your average person, needed better ways and more ways to connect with the energy transition. And when we discovered that, when we remembered that COP was taking place, we started to have discussions with PEC about how we might help people connect, especially in the context of COVID, with what was going to be happening up in Glasgow. And we were initially planning on making 2,000 moths with a load of people in Plymouth, and little did we know what was going to happen. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you a bit more about us. So this is the three of us, Naomi, Jenny and myself, stitching moths together. There are other members of our collective, but we're the kind of main artists who came up with this concept. In the end, we had 59,000 participants in the project from all over the UK and further afield. And actually, I'm going to stop share and then reshare this because I worry that I didn't click the right buttons to share sound. So here is a summary of the project, which I hope you'll enjoy. So that was a reflection of the Moths to a Flame project, and we've learned a huge amount through the project, and there are now a lot more people who know a lot more about community energy and have found a way into having energy conversations. So before I share with you some of the learning about how to do projects like that yourself, I'm going to hand over to Jemma.
Thanks, Chloe. Hello, everybody. So, yeah, my reflections and Moths to a Flame from the PEC perspective. I guess, wow, what a beautiful journey. It's been really, really beautiful, not just as an organisation, but also as individuals. We've learned so much from being part of this. I guess our first volunteer programme started in 2014. And then it evolved in 2016 with big lottery funding. And that's when our energy team of advisors really kind of took off. At the same time, we wanted to have volunteers in our community that really connected people, residents, with our services of what we could offer. And we were also launching share offers at the time as well. But how to keep volunteers engaged creatively. And that's when in 2018 we started collaborating with Art and Energy, offering solar art workshops with volunteers and members, and we have not looked back. It's such a beautiful collaboration, and that evolved into Moths to a Flame. So I guess the main thing for us is that, you know, I don't think there's many people on this call that won't agree that having conversations, connecting individual challenges around energy and how we can all be involved in taking action on climate change is difficult. And this, it's not exactly fun and engaging straight away in the starting a conversation. So Moths to a Flame's really allowed us to join the dots for people between struggling with their energy bills, the dependence on energy, its impact in nature, the role of the global collaboration, and the importance of communities coming together. Building a strong network and a strong partnership network is like fundamental to PEC. And this kind of really offered a chance for people to participate in a creative, accessible and dynamic way, creatively, kind of collectively raising voices about what matters to us most. And it's allowed us really to connect and reach people in our community on a level that we never have done before in all the different things that we're involved in the city. We've been blown away by the response to participate, the donations to the crowdfunder that we ran as part of the project, the sheer number of people that visited the installation in Plymouth and further afield. It's made our outreach events more interesting because we've got something fun and engaging to draw people in with. And we've also had a major visual presence at big events in the city in Plymouth. And that's not even talking about getting to COP, like us going to, we probably wouldn't have gone to COP if it wasn't for this. I don't think we would have if it wasn't for this project. So yeah, it was, for us, really, it was the start of the conversation, and it linked people to all of the other services and opportunities that we offer in our retrofit, renewables, housing. It cemented the links that we already have in Plymouth and also helped us find new networks, new avenues to share information, and new collaboration opportunities. Yeah, I think it also really helped promote community energy as a whole, because we actually, it's quite difficult to get from talking about energy bills to talking about community energy to talking about the bigger picture of the community energy sector to talking about climate change. So actually, straight from the beginning, people are like, oh, what's community energy? And yeah, so and also being able to talk about different community energy groups and how we all bring our uniqueness to it, because we're all serving different communities. So yeah, it's been a really, really special experience, and we're definitely continuing the collaboration with Art and Energy. And for me personally, somebody doing communications and engagement, it's one of my favorite bits of work within PEC. Like it's been priceless, I would say.
So lovely. Thank you for saying that, Jemma. One of the things that we're really keen to emphasize, and one of the things that I came to Art and Energy with, was the fact that we all need to recognize that we're not in this journey on our own, and community energy is community energy as a sector are doing something extraordinarily important and valuable in our communities. And the culture sector is a sector that every community energy group should be trying to form relationships with. And there are all sorts of ways of working with artists that will uplift what you're doing and help you to create more impactful narratives that help people feel excited about being able to join in with the response to the climate emergency. So we have developed through the work that we've done with PEC and through the Moths to a Flame project, what we call a compass, because what we've recognized now is that not all art is as impactful as every, not all forms of art are as impactful, and there are still some kind of old school ideas about the role of the arts. It's often arts are being used as kind of greenwash, or just to frighten people or to illuminate some kind of piece of data. And actually there's something much deeper that the arts is able to do, which is about meeting participants where they are and inviting them in a variety of ways into better conversations about energy. So I'm not going to go through the detail of this compass, but I'm going to say to you that if you have a project that you would like to do better creative engagement around your projects, please do come and have a chat with us about how you can use this framework yourself, or invite artists that you work with to use this framework to reach people and journey further. And if you'd like to know more about it, we are going to run an interactive session on that compass for community energy groups between 1 and 3 on the 9th of March. So if you're considering your own engagement projects, please do come along and have a think through how you might work with culture to do that. We are producing a book which has got a collection of the poems, some of the images of the journey of the Moths to a Flame project, as well as some thought pieces that you might find interesting. So please do visit our website and have a look at that if you'd like to. And if you, I also want to let you know that we are planning a new mass participation project, and we'd like to develop it over 3 years. It's called How to Bury a Giant, and it will be looking at our relationship with carbon. So we'll be inviting people to think about their smallness in the relation to the hugeness of the carbon problem, and trying to invite people to get more active and involved in local energy projects through that lens and that narrative of how to bury a giant. So if you're interested in that as well, then please do get in touch and have a conversation.
Great. Thank you so much to both Chloe and Jemma for that. That video was really amazing, and I dropped the link in the chat because people were demanding it. So that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think anyone do get in touch with Chloe about engaging in arts and with arts and energy. If it's okay with you, I'll send around some links after the session with how they can contact and find out a little bit more about it. Great. So yeah, thank you both, and thanks to Dave and to Prina as well. Those are 3 really interesting talks. So now we're going to split into breakout sessions. So my colleagues at CE have kindly agreed to help me facilitate these sessions. So we'll be asking, so we'll have one facilitator in there, who'll be from CE in each group. And then we'll also be asking one person from each group to take notes and to present back to the whole group at the end of the session. So yeah, we set aside half an hour for this. And then we'll have 2 minutes per group to present back sort of major takeaways and actions at the end. And then we'll have a quick break after that before we're heading back into the talks. So we have Hannah and Duncan talking after the breakout sessions. Great. Should we split into the groups now? And I think the recording won't happen in these because of the way Zoom works, I think.
I'm just moving everybody about manually. Give me 2 seconds and you'll all be in your groups.
Thanks, Charlotte. Fantastic. Yeah, I hope everybody found that useful and sort of benefited from having a platform to maybe speak about how things have affected them and their projects and bring that in. So yeah, I hope that was beneficial for people. What we're now going to do is we're going to go around the group. So the people we asked to take notes and feedback. Now is your time to shine. So shall I group? Well, the groups were numbered. Should we ask for? Well, Gordon, do you want to go first? Because I know that you were a note taker in our group. Is that okay?
If I could get my brain together, it would be. And my notes.
Can you hop to someone else if your brain's not got together?
Yeah, just give me a few minutes.
Okay, Charlotte, can we ask your group to feedback? I don't know who that was.
I was not part of the group. I was in the main room letting people in and stuff. So it'll be either Flora or Duncan.
Flora, can I ask your group's feedback?
Yes. Jemma, are you happy to feedback on our group's behalf?
Yeah, I've put our notes in the chat as well, but I'll try and whiz through them. So as a legacy for the sector as a whole, we talked about better financial support, reinstating tax breaks. It's a relatively easy and it won't cost the Treasury much up front. I'd love to see Community Energy England painting the picture of community energy even more boldly. Do it really well already with the clear ask to government and really showcasing the value of the offer that we bring. Ways to deal with procurement challenges, maybe rule changes for community energy groups, a conference that meets the needs of community energy groups but also invites the public in as well. Collaborative campaigns that allow us to communicate the values of community energy groups to communities. And it's the kind of thing that politicians really want to see an active way to respond to the climate emergency. So painting the positive vision of what's possible through community response. That was a really big theme of ours, more like positivity, I suppose. Support for community energy groups to explore new renewable energy technologies. Again, going back to the positive people responding to stories, and we really want to be able to paint a good picture of what our vision is with what we're doing. Targeting large institutions or landowners, potentially like the Crown Estate, that could have a policy for community energy. And yeah, some of our narrative can be a bit too direct, so it would be wonderful to really not forget the whimsical, the magical, and engage people's hearts from the beginning to engage more support for community energy. Funding for enablers, not just on a project basis, but also for the broad range of things we do. More recognition for the sector as a whole, and how can we encourage more of the people who are already supporting community energy within government to advocate for it, and bringing more joy into the energy space. We've got so many phenomenal messages and stories, and we want to focus a bit more on the people angle, not just on the net zero angle. Is that enough?
Great, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Great, Duncan, onto your group.
Thank you. Yes, before I forget, just on what Jemma said about large institutions, Martin in our group is working on a hookup between the military, who own thousands and thousands of acres, and community. And apparently there is an opportunity, that there's a remit that the military have to serve their community. So you can end up putting stuff on military land and getting around planning permission. So to be explored. Martin will send us stuff. Philip began with the perception that there's lots of energy coming towards us because of the perceived not total success of COP and the inaction of government. And a lot of it is coming from the heart, which is a great place. And somebody else mentioned, Pamela mentioned, that people are also scared. So community energy has much to offer on both fronts, action for change, and nothing helps depression more than getting out there and making benefit. Alex perceived the need to scale, the need to professionalize, the need for continuous professional development and funding to do that, so that not eschewing the value of volunteer work. We need to be able to make those passionate people able to make a living out of it. She suggested a national community energy development agency, something that the LEPs sort of do to varying degrees, but that's a really interesting idea. We maybe need to discuss it more. Peer mentoring, Skillshare platforms. And on the sharing front, Paul mentioned the supportive family of community energy, which in certain areas is very well organized. Bristol, London has community energy, London Community Energy South, but maybe there's a way of hooking up people where there isn't a community energy network, just so that the leads of groups can get together, say once a month, discuss opportunities, stresses, problems, and that's I've noted that for us to explore. Paul's looking for more steers on lobbying to central government, which plays to the engaging already supportive people there, but also mentioned the power of engaging with your local government. Certain areas have community energy funds, boroughs in London, Bristol, Manchester, but that is something that we can encourage more local authorities to do, and that can make a really big difference. Local authorities is going to be a focus of my presentation later on, because there are other dimensions to that. Phil also said resources around advice, getting lawyers to help negotiate PPAs, negotiate feasibility assessments, jargon, and so on. Susie also mentioned the importance of funding to keep groups going and to deal with particular things like problems they have on the Isle of Wight of being at the edge of the grid and sometimes being turned off when there isn't capacity. That's something, again, we could get like minds around.
Great. Duncan, if that's all right, I'm going to cut you off there. Perfect. And Gordon, quickly, we've just got a minute or two.
Okay. All right, very quickly then.
Very quickly, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good, real inspiration from the Moths to a Flame project. Reaction to was done at COP26 to share anything that anything that we have achieved with local authorities or government groups on a central database somewhere, so that we can then say to other groups that's been done already. There's overall thought of a lack of recognition of community energy and what it can do. Try to link with the universities and community energy, particularly in Bristol. I think you're going to do that. Suggestions to link up to Community Energy Europe, because it's a larger scale. So why not look that way and bring it back to us, because we can show what can be done. And then, yeah, that's basically it. Well, a few other things, but we can come back to those later.
Great, thanks very much. So now we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break, just because we've been, those of us who've been there since the beginning have been on this for an hour and a half now. So just going to take a quick 5, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hear from Hannah from the Climate Coalition, who's just joined us. So great, yeah, I'll see everyone we'll be starting quite sharpish at 25 to 4. Great. You. Yeah, and again, so if people have questions for Hannah, do just drop them in the chat. Are you having trouble screen sharing, Hannah?
Yes. I can now do it.
Lovely. Okay.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
You can just see the slides, right? I think.
We can see some of your bookmarks.
Sorry, I don't know why it's doing that.
Nothing to reveal them.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, I was having a little bit of trouble with presenting using one screen. Sorry about that. Hi everyone, really nice to be here. My name is Hannah and I work for the Climate Coalition as the Coalition Coordinator. Just in case anyone hasn't heard of the Climate Coalition, it's the UK's largest group of people dedicated to action on climate change. We're a group of around 140 organisations, including Community Energy England, and also organisations like the National Trust, Oxfam and the RSPB, etc. And we all come together to campaign on climate change and call on politicians to take the climate emergency seriously and take action to protect all the things that we love from climate change. So in my role, I work really closely with all of our members, such as Community Energy England, and we work together to plan campaigns on climate and nature and push the government to take action on this really important area. So I'm going to talk to you today about two of our big campaign moments this year. So firstly, Show the Love, which is our February campaign, which is going on at the moment. And then the second is Great Big Green Week, which is in September. So firstly, Show the Love. Show the Love started in 2015, is now in its 7th year and has run every February since then. It's an opportunity to show decision makers that we want to see real and rapid action to tackle the climate and nature crises together. And this is for the love of our families, our homes, our livelihoods, and our planet. And so we do this by using the green heart symbol that you can see on the right of the slide. And we use this to show politicians and decision makers about what we love that is threatened by climate change. And this is really linked to local stories, which was mentioned in the feedback from the breakout rooms. So this could be, for example, your local football field that keeps flooding, or a coastal village that's susceptible to sea level rise, or on the international side, it could be that climate change is affecting the ability of farmers to grow crops and impacting their livelihoods, as well as the availability of those products here in the UK. And by sharing these personal stories, we hope that this shows politicians and the people in power that the public really care about climate change. There's a lot of things that the public love that are going to be affected and are already being affected by climate change, and that climate change is the fight that unites people across the UK. And so it should also unite politicians, and they should put aside their differences to come together to tackle climate change. So how can you get involved? There's loads of ways that you can get involved in the campaigns. So one of the main things that you and or your organisations can do is encouraging people to craft a green heart. So this is one of the main actions of the Show the Love campaign. So during Show the Love, community groups across the country will come together, they'll create and craft their green hearts, and then they'll share these with their local MPs to demonstrate their hope and desire for action on climate change. The hearts can be any shape or form, and there's a couple of examples on the slides of some of the things that other people have done. They can also be a lot simpler than the hedgehog one on the slide. And we've got lots of inspiration on our website, as well as for different things you can do to craft your hearts, as well as a special craft with Patrick Grant from the Great British Sewing Bee. There's also postcard templates, which again is on our website, and after I finish speaking, I'll post the link to this in the chat so that you have access to it. And this is where you send your heart to your MP. And this is asking them to specifically to take action on climate change. And this year we're calling for the whole of government, not just the Prime Minister or not just a specific minister, but for all ministers in every government department to take action on climate change and also take seriously their commitments to net zero. Alongside the physical postcard, we also have an e-action. Again, there's a template and link to this on our website, which I'll share after this presentation. And the letter asks MPs to write to the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, and COP President Alok Sharma, again, asking for them to adopt a whole of government approach to climate and nature. And then finally, we're asking people to share their own For the Love of stories on Valentine's Day. And this is where you can share a personal story on social media. This could be in a tweet or a Facebook post, a video, Instagram story, anything, talking about what you love that is threatened by climate change and what it is that you want to protect from climate change. So there's loads of different ways that people can get involved in this campaign. We also have a lot more inspiration on our website. We have a community action pack, which has like baking a cake in the shape of a green heart or planning community activities. And there's also a map where you can log any activities that you're involved with as well. So moving on to Great Big Green Week.
Sorry, just to let you know, I think we've got about 3 minutes left, 3-4 minutes.
Sure. Thank you. I'll go through this really quickly. So this year, Great Big Green Week will take place from 24th of September to the 2nd of October. This will be the second Great Big Green Week, with the first last year. In 2021, the first Great Big Green Week that's ever happened, there were over 5,000 events that took place across the UK, as well as 200 local festivals. And that's when people organised a series of events in their local community. So it's a real opportunity for communities to come together, organise events and speak up to call for action to tackle climate change and protect people and nature. The events took all shapes and forms. There was beach cleans, film screenings, school assemblies, art installations, concerts, tree planting, etc. Celebrities got involved. There was lots of attention in the media, and even the Prime Minister did a Twitter video about it, which was great. We're already planning for 2022, hoping that it will be even bigger and better. So please watch this space. We're hoping that more people come together and there's more events happening around the UK. There will be grants available for local groups and organisers to apply for if they would like to plan events and activities in their community. These will be launched soon, and we can definitely keep in touch about when this all goes live. And yeah, finally, thank you for listening. I'm sorry, I don't know if we've got time for questions, but I'm really happy to answer questions if we do have time. But my email address is on the slide, so do feel free to get in touch with me if you would like more information.
Great, thank you so much. I think we probably don't have time for questions now, but I think, is it all right if I send around your email address afterwards so that people know where to get in touch? And I'll also link them to the sort of Show the Love resources as well. Great, okay, thanks so much. So now we're going to move on to Duncan Law. So Duncan works at CEE, Community Energy England, as the Policy and Advocacy Manager. So I had a big input into a lot of our policy work that was surrounding COP26, and Duncan's going to be leading on our strategy going into 2022 as well. So yeah, take it away, Duncan. Duncan, you're on mute.
I should have learned that by two years into this nonsense. No. Thanks everybody for your contributions so far. We're inspired and have got some things on our to-do list as a result. I'm going to whisk through where we are and try and spend most time looking at where we need to go. So that's me. And I always have problems moving slides on in this format. So why did we focus on COP26? Well, it was a huge political opportunity. The government really wanted not to look fools and to be world leading. And we pledged to try and ensure that people and communities are recognised internationally as critical to achieving net zero, and that the UK government recognised it, put it in exemplary policy, which other nations could learn from and adopt, and also then to see those states adopting that. I can't say that that was entirely successful, but it was worth a try. It was also a hugely important local opportunity to engage people in climate action, which we have continuously been telling the government we are absolutely the best people at. And a lot of inspiring stuff happened there. And also brilliant for local MP engagement. And a lot of groups had MPs visit, and MPs are an absolutely fundamental way of spearheading our impact and our arguments to the central decision makers. Where are we? Well, the Committee on Climate Change and increasingly the government recognise that it will not be possible to get close to meeting zero without engaging with people, or by pursuing an opportunity that focuses only on supply side changes. I think the first part is definitely recognised, and increasingly the social benefits and that community energy brings, but still the government is very focused on delivering net zero with large, sometimes unicorn-shaped technological interventions, carbon capture and storage, new nuclear energy and so on. They have some things going in the right direction, but they're normally either not enough or they don't work, like the Green Homes Grant. But moving my slide on, if it will. We had last year, the Environmental Audit Committee got engaged, did an inquiry and produced some excellent recommendations to government, to which the Secretary of State replied with a promise to reveal his that the net zero strategy will include our future plans for community energy. So we lived in hope for a few months, and then the net zero strategy was, come on slide. Sorry, this is clumsy, was released, and it mentioned community energy and the importance of local climate action, but it contained no practical support measures to harvest the potential of community energy, and failed to recognise the importance of it to achieving net zero. It did establish the Community Energy Contact Group to continue discussing things, which we will harness, but it also went in the wrong direction on a number of fronts. The heat and building strategy, again, recognised the importance of local, and a few little things that we can harness, but basically was not enough. There is the various innovation funds. The spending review, again, climate change not mentioned, very little for communities or social businesses, lots of things going in the wrong direction, but some funding, large funding for innovation and so on. Action and advocacy, looking forward. This is Dave Tudgey and Amelia from Bristol with Darren Jones, who's the chair of the Bays select committee that scrutinises the activities of government in this department. And we met loads of other people. As a result of some of those meetings, yesterday we met Greg Hands, the Energy Minister, to convince him of the vital importance of continuing dedicated support for community energy, extending and expanding the Rural Community Energy Fund to include urban and heat and so on. He has not quite got the power to do it on his own. So for the next few weeks, we will continue to lobby, and we'll go up the line to the Secretary of State to get funding for community energy for the next through to 2025, funded from the Bays departmental budget. So we will be writing to the Secretary of State, and we would urge you all to write to your MPs to lobby the Secretary of State. And there's a link there, get the capitalization right as a sort of template letter. Invite MPs to see and be convinced by the power of community energy firsthand, and also send a green heart to your MP. There's a template of what we suggest you do at that bit.ly link, and our parliamentary briefing below. Please do make your green heart as beautiful as you can. Ours is a very sort of bargain basement version, so adorn it as you see fit. Other agendas and opportunities that can help the future for community energy. Levelling up. The white paper was launched last Tuesday, and there's lots about enabling every community to achieve everything that it can and unleashing all our firepower. But most of the enabling local leaders talk is enabling local elected leaders, local government leaders. And the recommendation from the minister and various sources is that community energy should work with local authorities to access the national growth funds, for instance, the Levelling Up Fund and the Shared Prosperity Fund, which are coming on stream in March and a bit later on, to do their work. The problem with that is that you have to have a good relationship with your local authority. You have to chime with their policy agendas. So start now. Build relationships and plan with your local authority to be part of those consortium bids to get those quite sizable funds. And we will help with training and resources and information as it comes online as best we can. But there's billions in those funds, and some community energy groups have already accessed millions, but not, the gap is that mostly there isn't funding for feasibility and development. So that's what we're arguing with the government with at the moment. Another thing coming online in February is the Energy Redress Fund, up to 9 million a year. So the action is to start planning your applications for the first round now. We will help as best we can and hope to organise a webinar with the funding agency in due course. February is the begin date of that. Other support, the DNO's business plans are out to final consultation. We're just responding to that now. But we urge you to look at your DNO's business plans and make the most of opportunities, because they all have some kind of funding for community energy over the ED2 period, which is 5 years, some quite a lot of money, but they also offer other supports which you should look to harness so that we are fully exploiting that. We will publicize info as very soon. Other stuff. The picture is to remind you that other governments are available, and recent shenanigans have shown that this government is not as well founded as it might be, but it still has a huge majority. Labour is asking what government would look like if it really took the public with it on net zero, and is doing community conversations around the country, starting in Sheffield this Friday. So if your group would be interested in hosting one of those, please be in touch with us, and we will let the organisers of this tour know. The local electricity bill is in progress at Bays. The department has taken on trying to make it work. Is your MP on board? We need at least half the House of Commons, which is 321 MPs, to be signed up to it, to be sure that the government will take it on as a bill. So if your MP isn't, please urge them to. It has the support of the Labour Party, so any Labour MPs who aren't signed up should directly. Regulation obviously is a big and quite impenetrable front that we are engaging with Ofgem and others on. New markets around flexibility, around local energy saving, around storage and grid services, we will continue to explore, but please do so with your local partners. Local area energy planning is mentioned by all the DNOs in their plans.
1 minute left.
Got that, thank you very much, I'm near the end. So that's an opportunity, again, to get round the table with stakeholders and be part of the strategy. Harnessing the energy crisis, worth arguing for more fossil fuels. The awareness of that has never been greater, but also to be activising down into your communities and delivering social benefit through energy savings and cost bill reductions. And then working with your communities to harness the post-COP desire to act, which I think is incredibly powerful. So that's it. That's us. Duncan and Fiona's emails are there, my phone number, and links to our parliamentary briefing and the letter writing and the Green Heart campaign. Thank you very much. Let's work together.
Great, thank you so much, Duncan. So that really brings us to the end of where we are with our speakers. So I just wanted to, we're just going to close up, so I'm going to put a quick poll up, which has sort of various questions about the session. There are only like 3 questions in there, so don't be too worried. And also looking at, thank you, Charlotte. So in there's also the option to register your interest in a community energy advocacy network. So this is sort of grown out of a group that we had through COP, which was the sort of community energy at COP26 roundtable group, where we sort of met monthly, and it was a good opportunity for us to sort of share learnings and to try and provide some sort of guidance on that. So this is just a sort of registering interest for that. It's something that we can go move on with together. So yeah, so I'd really appreciate if everybody could answer that poll. That would be fantastic. And yeah, so while everyone's doing that, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to all of our speakers. I think everyone would agree that we've had some really, really interesting things today. So thanks to Prina, to Dave, and to Jemma, to Chloe, to Hannah, and to Duncan for all their input and their talks. It was great to be able to hear from all of you about your experience and expertise. That was fantastic. And thanks to everybody for coming, and thanks for feeding into the breakout sessions as well. I know that sometimes those can be a little bit daunting, so it was great to it's great that everybody was able to put in the effort to share with us. And yeah, so thank you, everyone. I think we'll leave the session up for a bit just while some more people finish the poll, if there's anybody still out there who is